Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're looking at a figure who, well, he has what I would call a yes but legacy. You know those people.
Oh, yeah, the big asterisk.
The big asterisk, exactly. You list all their amazing qualities, and then there's that, that awkward pause where you have to say, but. There was this one thing. We are talking about King Asa today. And honestly, looking at the sources, mostly 1 Kings and 2 Chronicles, this guy is a walking contradiction. He's like a puzzle with one piece that just, it doesn't fit.
It's a fascinating case study because, usually history gives us these clear heroes or clear villains. Issa is.
Yeah.
He's messy. He's human. I think that's why this is going to be a bit uncomfortable for a lot of us.
Uncomfortable is good. We like uncomfortable. So to set the stage, I want to read his performance review, so to speak. This is from 1 Kings 15.14.
Okay.
I read this like 3 times because it just didn't compute. It says, "But the high places were not removed. Nevertheless, Issa's heart was wholly devoted to the Lord all his days."
It's a jarring sentence, isn't it?
It's a total paradox. How can you be wholly devoted? I mean, that sounds like 100% A+ effort. And in the very same breath, the writer goes, oh, by the way, he didn't actually finish the job.
Right. He left the high places standing. And that's the tension we really have to sit in today. We're investigating how, genuine devotion can coexist with this incomplete reform.
How can you have a perfect heart but a compromised kingdom?
Exactly.
Okay, but before we get into the heavy stuff, can we just clarify this? The high places, I feel like I see that phrase all the time in these texts. What are we actually talking about? Is it just like a church on a hill?
Not exactly, no. Think of it less like a church and more like a DIY spiritual hotspot.
A hotspot.
Yeah. In the ancient Near East, the general idea was that if you wanted to get the attention of a god, you went up. Hills, mountains, raised platforms.
Yeah.
Closer to heaven, clearer signal.
Okay, so it's about altitude. Makes sense.
Right. But for Israel, this was a massive problem. They were supposed to have one central place of worship, the temple in Jerusalem. That was a command.
Okay.
That was how they kept their worship pure, focused on Yahweh. But people, they like the convenience of the local hilltop.
It's like the difference between driving downtown to the cathedral versus just popping into the little chapel around the corner.
That's a great analogy. It was convenient religion. And often these spots were leftovers from the Canaanite religions that were there before. So people were sort of mixing the worship of the true God with the vibes and the rituals of the local pagan shrines. It was syncretism.
So keeping them wasn't just like a minor zoning violation. It was a real compromise.
A huge compromise. It was like hedging your bets.
Yeah.
So the text says Asa didn't remove them. It's implying he didn't want to upset the locals. He was devoted to God, sure, but he wasn't willing to do the uncomfortable work of tearing down the community's favorite shrines.
Wow.
He let the good enough culture survive.
That makes the wholly devoted comment even weirder. It's like saying, oh, he was a perfect husband, wholly devoted, except he kept his old dating profile active just in case.
That is a terrifyingly accurate analogy. And that's the question, right? Does God grade on a curve? Or is there something about the heart that's distinct from the action?
Well, let's look at the action, because if we just stop there, we'd think Asa was sort of a mediocre leader. But then you flip over to 2 Chronicles 14, and suddenly we're in an action movie. This guy has a highlight reel, that is. It's absolutely insane.
Oh, the Battle of Marisha. This is the moment where the rubber really meets the road for him.
I want to set the scene here because the numbers in the source material are they're staggering. So Asa is the king of Judah. He's got an army. The text says he has about 580,000 men, which to me sounds like a lot.
It is a lot. By ancient standards, that's a formidable force. He's not weak.
He's not weak. But then the bad guys show up. Zerah the Cushite. And he brings an army. Do you want to say the number or should I?
You can say it. It's more fun when you say it.
1 million men.
A literal sea of humanity.
And if 1 million soldiers weren't enough to make you just run for the hills, they also brought 300 chariots.
And we have to remember, in that era, a chariot isn't just a wagon, it's a tank.
Yeah.
It is the ultimate shock and awe technology. Infantry cannot stand against chariots. They get mowed down.
So just pause for a second. Put yourself in Asa's sandals. You're standing on a ridge. You look down. You're outnumbered almost 2 to 1.
At least.
And the enemy has the technological equivalent of like armored divisions, and you have guys with spears. Logically, shouldn't he be retreating? Or surrendering? Or just finding a cave to hide in?
By every military metric, yes. It's suicide.
Yeah.
There's no strategy that wins this battle. Flanking doesn't work. Brute force doesn't work. It's over before it starts.
So what does he do? Because this is where the character study gets really interesting.
This is Asa. at his absolute best. He doesn't call a war council. He doesn't check his supply lines. He drops to his knees.
He prays.
He prays a very specific, very desperate prayer. He says, Lord, there is no one like you to help the powerless against the mighty. Help us, Lord our God, for we rely on you.
We rely on you. That has to be the key phrase.
It is. And you know, what's so fascinating here is that Asa is actually following this. This very obscure, very counterintuitive law.
A law, like a traffic law.
A military law, actually. It's buried back in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 20. It's called the Laws of Warfare. And it has the specific instruction for when you see horses and chariots in an army larger than yours.
That's exactly what Asa is looking at.
The identical scenario. And the law says, do not be afraid of them.
Okay, that is terrible advice. Do not be afraid of the tank. Do not be afraid of the million guys who want to kill you. That sounds like something you put on a motivational poster, not a battle plan.
It sounds insane. But the premise of the law was that God fights with Israel. The victory isn't determined by the census or the math. It's determined by the alliance with the divine.
Wow.
Asa knew his history. He knew the law. So when he saw the million men, he essentially said, okay, God, you wrote the rule book. I'm playing by your rules. I'm powerless, so you have to show up.
And, spoiler alert,
he shows up. Big time.
Big time. The text says the Lord struck down the Cushites. They broke. They ran. Asa's army chased them and collected so much plunder they couldn't even carry it all back.
It's a total rout.
Yeah.
A complete victory against impossible odds.
It's the kind of victory that defines a generation. You tell your grandkids about this. I was there when the million men ran away.
You really do.
So this is where I get confused. If I'm Asa and I just won the Super Bowl of battles by trusting God, I feel like I'm set for life. I have the formula. Step 1, trust God. Step 2, win.
You would think so.
Yeah.
If I can trust God with the impossible, I can trust him with anything. That should be the logic, right?
And there's always a but in these stories. That is not what happens. We have to fast forward now. The sources take us to year 36 of Asa's reign.
Yeah, so he's been king a long time. He's older, he's established, he's wealthy, and a new threat pops up.
King Baasha, the neighbor to the north, the king of Israel.
Right.
Now, Baasha is causing some trouble. He starts fortifying a city called Ramah. He's basically building a border wall, setting up a blockade.
It's an economic squeeze. He's trying to stop trade, stop people from defecting to Judah. It's a serious political issue.
Okay, it's serious, but let's just compare the threat levels here. On one side, we had the army of Cush, 1 million men, tanks, imminent death.
Existential threat.
On the other side, we have Baasha building a fort and blocking traffic.
It's a nuisance. It's a headache. But is it an existential threat? No, not at all.
Right. Compared to the million guys, this is nothing. So what does our man of faith, the guy who prayed the prayer of reliance, do? Does he go back to his knees? Does he say, Lord, we rely on you?
Not even a whisper of it. The text doesn't record a single prayer.
So what does he do?
He goes to the bank, specifically the temple treasury. He takes the silver and gold, some of which probably came from that victory over the Cushites, and he sends it to a foreign king, Ben-Hadad of Aram.
Wait, he hires a hitman?
Essentially, yeah. He pays Ben-Hadad to break his treaty with Baasha and attack the northern border. He uses a political maneuver, a bribe.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this shift. He trusted God for the impossible thing, but he couldn't trust God for the annoying thing.
That is the pivotal question.
Yeah.
Why? Why the change?
Yeah, why?
I think it's what we could call the competency trap.
Break down that term for me.
Well, think about the first battle. Asa had to trust God. He had no other choice. There is no human solution to a million-man army. Desperation breeds reliance.
Right.
When you're at the end of your rope, you grab onto faith because it's the only rope left.
Okay, that makes total sense.
But with the Baasha, this was a political problem. And Asa is a king. He knows politics. He has money. He has leverage. He looked at the problem and said, you know what? I don't need a miracle for this.
Yeah.
I can handle this. I just need to move some funds around.
He treated it like a transaction. Here's the silver, make the problem go away.
Exactly. When the problem fits within our own competency, we tend to leave God out of the equation. We stop relying on the principles that got us there, and we start relying on our own fix-it skills.
But here's the kicker. It worked.
It did work.
Yes. Ben-Hadad took the money, he attacked Baasha, Baasha withdrew, and Asa even went and tore down the fort at Ramah and used the stones to build his own cities. I mean, strategically, it was a brilliant move.
Pragmatically, it was a slam dunk. He solved the problem, he protected his border, he even got some free building materials out of it.
So, what's the problem? If it works, right?
That is how we think. But the source material tells us that God sees it very differently. Because right after this success, a seer, a prophet named Hanani, shows up at the palace.
And I'm guessing he's not there to congratulate Asa on his negotiation skills.
Yeah, not at all. Hanani looks the king in the eye and says, "Because you relied on the king of Aram and not on the Lord your God, the army of the king of Aram has escaped from your hand."
Wait, what does that mean, escaped from your hand?
It implies that God had a bigger victory in store. If Asa had trusted God, he might have defeated both Baasha and Ben-Hadad. He might have established a lasting peace. Instead, he bought a temporary truce.
He settled for the quick fix.
He traded a divine victory for a political band-aid.
Yeah.
And then Hanani drops the hammer. He reminds Asa of the Cushites. He basically says, hey, remember the million guys. Remember the chariots. You trusted God then, and he delivered them. Why did you think God couldn't handle Baasha?
Oof. That is such a stinging rebuke. You trusted me with the mountain. Why didn't you trust me with the molehill?
And this is where the tragedy really hits. Because how does Asa react to this correction? Does he repent? Does he say, oh man, you're right, I got cocky?
No. The text says he got so angry he threw the prophet in prison, put him in stocks.
He shoots the messenger. It shows how hard his heart had become. The wholly devoted heart had become proud. He didn't want to hear that his clever political solution was actually a spiritual failure.
This connects back to the high places, doesn't it?
I think it absolutely does. It's all part of the same pattern.
Connect those dots for me.
Okay, so remember the high places, those local shrines he left standing. We said that was about convenience. It was about the path of least resistance. It was good enough. Well, look at the Baasha incident. Using money to buy a mercenary. That's also the path of least resistance. That's the convenient solution. That's the good enough fix.
Oh, wow. So the high places were like the canary in the coal mine.
Exactly. Leaving the high places standing showed a tendency to avoid the hard work of total reliance and total reform.
Yeah.
And that tendency, it grew. It sat there, dormant, while things were going well. But when the pressure came later in life, that convenience-first attitude took over completely.
It's the long obedience that got him. He could sprint, he could do the one big act of faith, but he couldn't run the marathon.
That's it. Maintaining spiritual intensity over 30 or 40 years is incredibly difficult. It's easy to be faithful in the crisis. It's hard to be faithful in the comfort. And Asa failed the test of comfort.
And the consequences weren't just for him. The prophet tells him, from now on, you will have wars.
He bought peace with money, but the result was constant conflict. He lost the very thing he was trying to buy. It's the paradox of the human solution. We try to control the outcome, and by doing so, we lose control.
This is such a heavy story. It really challenges the idea of what success looks like, because if you just looked at Basa's Wikipedia page, it would say, 41-year reign, great builder, defeated the Cushites, savvy politician. But the Bible puts that asterisk there. But the high places were not removed.
It reminds us that God isn't looking for our resume. He's looking for our reliance. He's looking for that posture of, I can't do this without you, whether we're facing a million soldiers or just a stressful Tuesday at the office.
So if we're going to bring this home, if we're going to take this ancient king and put him in our modern lives, what are we looking for?
I think we have to look for our own high places.
What does that look like today? I mean, I don't have a shrine in my backyard.
No, but you might have high places of compromise. What are the things you're tolerating in your life? Because dealing with them is just too inconvenient. Maybe it's a habit you know isn't good for you, but it's a comfort mechanism. Maybe it's a grudge you're holding because forgiving that person is just too hard.
It's the good enough areas. I'm a good person. I pay my taxes. I'm nice to my kid, so I can keep this little pocket of selfishness over here.
Exactly. My heart is wholly devoted, mostly. And what Asa's story warns us is that those little pockets of compromise, they don't stay little. They shape our character. And eventually, they shape our decisions in the big moments.
And I guess the other takeaway has to be about where we turn in a crisis.
Absolutely. The instinct test. When that email comes in that makes your stomach drop, or the doctor calls, or the bank account looks bad, what is your very first instinct? Do you start strategizing? Do you start panicking? Do you reach for the checkbook?
Or do you stop and say, help us, for we rely on you?
It's realizing that just because you can handle it doesn't mean you should handle it alone.
But that's the line right there. Competency is a gift, but it can also be a curse if it replaces reliance.
It is the challenge of a lifetime.
Well, this has been a massive wake-up call. King Asa, the man who defeated 1 million men but couldn't defeat his own need for control.
A powerful warning for all of us.
Thank you so much for breaking this down with us. And to everyone listening, maybe take a look at those high places this week. Maybe it's time to start tearing a few of them down. We'll see you on the next deep dive.